It's not laziness. It's numbness. It's a cultural numbness of, we've been taught from very young ages many ways to deal with our own internal discomfort. And so whether it's through food, whether it's through drink, whether it's through sex, whether it's through shopping, whether it's through a variety of distractions, now we have social media, but we've been given ways, and of course some are considered more socially acceptable than others. To most people, coming home from a hard day and saying, I need a drink is considered perfectly acceptable. People saying, oh God, let's go shopping. I'm in a bad mood. Let's go shopping. Again, perfectly culturally acceptable. The underlying issue is I'm having feelings. I don't want to be having these feelings. I need to do something to make myself not have the feelings. And my choice of thing to not have the feelings is something that doesn't actually address them directly, but rather simply distracts me from them. And the dilemma of this method of coping is twofold. On the one hand, it's destroying our planet. The overconsumption of everything due to our personal sense of frustration, annoyance, boredom, sadness, depression, anxiety. We're actually consuming our planet through shopping therapy, eating therapy, drinking therapy, etc. So on the one hand, it's destroying the planet. On the other hand, it creates a culture where we all agree to this narrative, which is, I shouldn't feel anything. Oh, you're depressed? Come, we'll go for pizza. Oh, you're feeling sad? Come on, here's a piece of, look, I brought you a chocolate cake. This should help with your sadness. And again, aside from the elements of the destructive habits of, addictive behavior, the core teaching is those feelings are something to be dealt with, as in get them to go away somehow. In order to make choices that require some degree of sacrifice for the betterment of my world, I have to be connected on some level to those for whom I am sacrificing. So, if you take any random mother or father or sister or brother on the planet, most of them would give the food in their hands to their child or sister or brother or mother or father because we love them, especially if that one were much hungrier. If you were, finishing up your meal and your friend or loved one came in, no matter how much you were enjoying it, if they were starving and there was nothing else to eat in the house, and they said, oh my God, can I have the rest of your burrito? You'd say, sure. You wouldn't say, no, you starve because I need the last 25% of this burrito also. You'd give it to them. And if you didn't give it to them, their hunger sitting right in front of you at the table would create a situation where you could not very comfortably eat that burrito with your loved one sitting there hungry in front of you wanting it. Because we are open on that level to the pain of our loved ones. We're able to tolerate that little bit of discomfort. But in order to make choices for our planet, I would have to open myself up to the presence of suffering, of almost 1 billion people sleep hungry every night. Think of their suffering. Think of the suffering of parents who themselves are suffering because they're hungry and whose children are suffering because they're hungry. Tens of thousands of children are dying of starvation every day. But to open ourselves up to that, that's not fun. I would much rather go out for pizza. I would much rather watch a movie than open myself up to that. And in order for us to make different choices, I have to be open to that. And the dilemma is then people say, well, but that's just depressing. And it isn't just depressing, because the truth is, when I open myself up to the pain in the world, I open myself up to the beauty in the world as well. And when I cut myself off from the whole world, not only do I cut myself off from suffering, but I cut myself off from true joy. And so my experience of joy ends up relegated to the pizza, the chocolate cake, the movie. Because unfortunately you cannot simultaneous, or you can't selectively cut off certain emotions. This is what, antidepressants do. And it's great. If you're suffering from debilitating depression, by all means, it's worth giving up temporarily the possibility of ecstasy in order to be free of the debilitating effects of depression. But whether we are treating ourselves through an antidepressant or we're treating ourselves through just our lifestyles, what we do is we lop off both ends of the emotional spectrum. I don't feel the depression. I don't feel the anxiety. I don't feel the grief, but I also don't feel the real joy. And so these 60 to 70% of people who are not making the choices that they theoretically would make if they were open to what was happening, chances are tragically not able to experience the real gifts that life offers. So that's the tragedy, is that we are given this culture that says, don't feel your feelings, numb them, distract yourself, go on Facebook, binge watch Netflix, whatever it may be, but do something other than feel open to the suffering of the world. And if I'm successful at numbing myself, at blocking myself, well, then I don't have to make different choices. Because then I've been able to absolutely cut myself off from any ramifications, any ripple impact of my life. On a deep spiritual level, when we speak about spirit and action, they are one. True action. You mentioned Andrew Harvey speaking of sacred activism. What is that? It's action infused with spirit. It is the action of those who have not numbed themselves, who have not distracted themselves away from the inevitable, natural, beautiful pain that we feel when our self in the body of others is suffering. So when I don't cut myself off from that, when I don't suffocate myself in order to not feel, just get it through the day, just get through the day, just get through the day, then there's room for spirit to flow through me. I always say a heart attack, a physical heart attack, happens when our blood vessels are so clogged with plaque that the blood doesn't flow. A heart attack isn't because blood doesn't exist, but it's because the blood can't flow through the vessel. And we have spiritual heart attacks when our internal channel is so clogged full of ego, of ignorance, of distractions, of pushing away, of false identities, of all of that, that there's no room for grace to flow. And so if my action is going to be infused by spirit, if it's going to be sacred action, what it means is that that channel has to be clear. Grace has to be able to flow through me, which means that I have to stop clogging up my channel. I have to stop suffocating myself. Stop numbing myself. Stop distracting myself. Stop living in the illusion. When I'm connected to spirit, everything I do is sacred.